everyone. I would just like to talk today, not about anything per se special, but in a sense I'm going to continue this recording and bring some of my ideas. I think that humankind isn't kind to itself, or kind enough. But I can see that the problem is a problem with the human idea. And what is giving that consciousness is kind of untouched by the human idea. So a lot of worry that is created for the human being is unnecessary. It is random acts of babbling nonsense in which the mind's nature is seen to be chaotic. So when we really try and strive to hold an organized life, we find simultaneously that we are not giving ourselves existential allowance, which is the most important idea ever known to man. Because man must give itself existential allowance as consciousness, and that's just a word, to perceive greater senses of self-awareness, self-being. You see? Once you see you are interpreting the moment, a sense of wit comes in where you realize that there is such a great wealth in not engaging in angry and agitated ways. Because then you can begin truly experiencing your mind. A lot of people do not enjoy their mind because they do not like themselves, and you wonder, how can a self-sustaining system not like itself, carry guilt and punishment for itself? Well, it is too convinced by stories of its own making. So if I really make a beautiful cake, and I know this cake is not, it's not a cake because I made it. I know it's not a cake. But if I suddenly start eating from it, then that means I'm hallucinating on something that's not there. So the whole life's like a dream kind of moment opens up to the human consciousness to lead it out of walls made out of only human ideas, human constructs. You see, I noticed as I grew into awareness of what philosophy and politics and sociology and psychology and all these can be seen from the same view. All branches of knowledge can be viewed from the same. If you still think that someone more knowledgeable equals someone who's gone through university, you, my friend, have lost the meaning of why people sought knowledge. Knowledge was never made to entrap one in thick ideas and textbooks. Knowledge was made to make man, allow man's consciousness to evaporate into greater senses of being. You must allow your structure to change by not believing that it is only structured in one way. Because then we're living as a limited society. So what that means is that at first, when you are an idea, a name tag, a conceptual figure in reality, or as you think, you see that society is an engagement of your day. An engagement with ideas, understanding, positioning of different things going on. Sometimes we think having extreme amounts of situational awareness gives us freedom. But no, it doesn't matter how well you look at the quality of the wall of the maze. The concept is to give ourselves a sense of our own greater freedom, and only we can do that. And this is where the guru you've been searching for, or the text, or the next theory, or the next understanding is your experience. So let me clear this out by suggesting that through the nature of our being to be one of constant existential allowance, we then ignite our own greater minds to come and answer our own greater questions, because we ask a question so great that the greatness of all existence must answer you. And where is the greatness of all existence being received? Well, you can tell me that when you wake up in the morning, you know? So we need to learn to appreciate what we at first engage with as an idea, that is our consciousness, but then we recognize it is all those experiences that memory is brightening for us, lighting up for us. And after that, we see your existential interest changes. Before existential allowance expresses itself, there is a change of your existential interest where you see, oh my God, I've been collecting a rock collection my whole life, but I never, like, it was too much to carry, unnecessary weight, you know? And not that rock collecting is not bad. Actually, rock collecting is a beautiful art form. Definitely get in touch with rocks, but you know, that's where the party's at too. So once you appreciate the moment, you then begin appreciating your interest and the allowance your interest suggests. What that means is, guys, if I right now want to go be something that is, let's say, I find a sense of self within me that knows it is possible, and a sense of self also knows, holy crap, I got to do a lot of work to get there, you know? If you're in that state of mind, you need to understand that the problem begins at the origination of your interpretation of what work is and what is hard. In other words, when someone asks me perhaps what is different from you, I'm saying I don't have the same understanding of hardship as many people do, because I see how people are talking about it. You might think you're an imaginary titan put into human form to bring forth the greatest ideas and artworks and creativity, but you must acknowledge yourself in a way where you are always able to throw everything away, you know? Because in a sense, that is how death enters our life, but not the death of that, you know? Many people die by the fear of the idea of death, which is a visualization by them, then by the actual experience. To transition into, to be aware of yourself in different cycles of change is living, to be honest with you. And as living is being done, there is an end if you create a beginning, and there's a beginning if you create an end. And the last time I checked, which was now, is that consciousness does not need words to fly. A bird doesn't need to explain itself, the nature of its expression. And so we must not get too stuck on trying to find a way into an imaginary freedom, because what many people perceive to be enlightenment as at times is an imaginary scene in their mind, which they are creating. They are fueling with interest and picture and shape and other experiences of their own understanding. When we see that reality is an acceptance of both order and chaos, we begin giving ourselves the existential allowance again to possess, and maybe not the word possess, I mean it's not a necessary name, but to in a sense have a moment where the intelligence of existence is tapping into our collective knowing. Guys, once you tap into the collective knowing, it is as if the tree has been watered. You don't know how your quality of idea, your state of being rises. You see, it's like naturally we are all looking up at the limitless sky after we've been done looking at the ground. So man needs to confront that moment in his life where he's thinking if he's an infinite being or if he's a temporal idea just like a temporal body. And in that moment where a decision or a sense of belief wants to, or in a sense is socially told to accept as in a belief or have your own ideas, you no longer have that authentic relationship with your truth. And so you then in a sense feel nothing is true. Authenticity in experience and direct experience is the most important thing that you need to first settle within yourself before you do any search. You want your search not to be a fake search. You don't want it to be someone else's search. You want it to be your own existential search into exploring what you are. Any other interpretation after that is not required because we're too busy being on the journey. We're on the journey. We're there. We're walking. You know, I remember, guys, it's funny. You know, I'm actually laughing most of the time because I see that the awareness we have to our ideas right now and to who we are and what truth self-reflectively is like a child in a cradle who doesn't need to question, you know, who was the architect that built the building, you know? So we see the distance is a lot for us to receive or to be in a place, because what is slowing us down is not the nature of our evolution or transcendence. What is slowing us down is culture misinterpreting consciousness because it could never interpret it properly because language hold flaws. But we do use language, and we're not going to condemn the ability to speak or the ability to have even put ourselves in a world that looked at its own extinction. You know, we are not going to judge ourselves based on this, because we think about what kind of person would be the most able in human life. And you see, the one who does not judge himself or others is one who is giving himself the freedom of not being thrown into a snowball effect of constructing an identity based on ideas that could never be them. The quality of experience suggests the depth of your understanding of life. And it may begin with reading, it may begin with writing, it may begin with speaking, it may begin with any art form. It may begin in the most unimaginable moments. It may begin in the most unexpected moments. You might be sitting at the dinner table with a spoon in your hand and about to put that first bite in you, you know, until you just get an understanding out of nowhere, like a cognition or a sense of revelation of your own ideas that you can't eat because the spoon feels heavy, because reality has just moved in to a state of awareness that cannot be separate. And so perhaps even the need for food was at certain moments in a sense present. You see, when you guys hear me talk, what mainly occurs, and I have noticed to occur, is that I begin engaging with the realness of thought, or the realness of thought is projected, and I constantly keep confronting the thought, the idea. What is the idea behind that idea, beyond that idea, through that idea, emitting within that idea, the idea that is connecting, you know? What is that bridge of awareness transition, you know? So when we ask deep questions, we see we are giving ourselves the capability and ability of someone to go answer those questions, you know? And someone may have never asked this question from you, you know, because someone could not, you know. I noticed no one came up to me when I was in my clouds of confusion and told me, buddy, you are walking in blindness, wake up, you know. I didn't have anything like that. But what happened is later on I realized the value of that, because sometimes the things we lack in life, we are meant to give valuable lessons to others about them. You know? In other words, if you are the most aggressive person you know, okay? Once you calm down, you can speak and teach about that state of being and the things that it does. It's not that you should be worried about consciousness being affected by drugs. You are going into different levels and states of awareness based on the attention you have to what is going on. Your consciousness is never just isolated in one place. It cannot be. You're instantaneously being all information. I don't know how to say it. But anyways, not to get too carried off, your mind works in a way where an emotional tantrum can equal into a fluctuation of consciousness similar to certain even, you know, psychedelics or other substances or whatever, you know? What I'm kind of telling you here is that the way you're acknowledging yourself can be messy or it can be clear. The way you're acknowledging yourself based on your natural awareness shows you the nature of life that you perceive. Now, you must begin seeing more ability in that which you in a sense are intuitively projecting. Our mind is one that thinks of many areas of human conception. And we see that what is the human being reacting into in life but other moments of reaction. And so we may like to use the word Maya in the sense of action and karma, but we do not also want to label things which can block our vision. Once you label something as being in a certain way, you are in a sense creating a simultaneous branch of reality of, I guess in a sense, a hologram-like consideration of that same reality. In other words, we thought cloning technology was behind. Well, guess what? Your mind is able to do many things. And so we have cloned many ideas in which we have many impressions of certain people because we've been with them many times. And so the complexity of mind is not one to constantly explore with linearity. And at times when I do explore these very deep concepts, existential concepts linearly, I'm poetically moving it towards non-linearity because I want to show you that it has nothing to do with how linear your story is or how illogical it is or logical it is. It's about your experience that is giving you an allowance for energy to be perceived in the most greatest way. In other words, you need to aim at looking at yourself in more deeper and more in a more understanding way. Begin looking at yourself as a moment of being that has access to existence. So what you know is simply the free will of your next conception, you know? It's all here. I want to very quickly, I guess, aim this talk, which began just as a talk, towards a direction where I want to tell you guys, you must study your mind. And perhaps that's going to be the title of this section, because to study your mind means to look at the different ways that you're accessing things, you're interpreting things, you're understanding things. And through your own sense of sincere and authentic allowance to go through the next experience, freedom is here. It is present. And omniscience is always allowed to explore itself. Much blessings. Take notes. Get a diary. Write down the different ways you can explore an idea. And be allowing, because if you do not allow yourself, no one will, and you will just, slow down your own journey or your own appreciative reception of your journey, So much blessings, and once words fade, we always see the light. Namaste.